Hi, hello, happy Friday. Um, oh my God, that's right. It's fuck Friday. I forgot it's fuck Friday. Hold on. We need to update. It's not just Friday, it's fuck Friday. Um, I am doing great as usual. A little bit, fucked, but good altogether. Okay, so I've updated that because we're gonna make that we're bringing it back. I've got to have it. I'm sick and tired of not having it. Today we are in my living room. We're in my living room because I don't want to be upstairs, locked in my like craft slash office space. Um, and also the light's better down here just naturally, so I can just like vibe. And I don't have to like worry about fixing lights and shit like that. It's not the prettiest backdrop ever because, shoes, jackets, whatever, but it's not bad. These are my photos that I've taken while I was out in the world, and so that's kind of nice. And we have decorative shit, so it's like it's not terrible, but it's not that upstairs was pretty either because it was legit just like a craft room with paint and shit in the background. Um, we're gonna because it's Fuck Friday, which fuck is Phantom Hunters Underground Collective, which is something we started in 2021, I want to say. Um, so it's been a long time. Um, I also just I wasn't like vibing with sitting in a normal chair today. I wanted to sit cross-legged on a cozy couch and vibe. We're gonna play horror games today because that's what we do on Fridays. It's kind of what we do every day because that's what I love. Um, but other than that, a quick detour into hating not OBS but Stream Elements. I have a bunch of things that I've kind of like. Oh, there's a couple of different things. I have custom coded uh Sorry, I'm just realizing that one of my custom widgets isn't working. I was going to say, like, I have a few different custom things, custom coded widgets and stuff like that for Stream Elements. And then I was gonna like start talking about my audio stuff because currently I'm having an audio issue where like my alerts and stuff are working, which is great, but certain widgets that for like redemptions, because I have this like a store redemption audio option so that my audio works in a specific way, doesn't work, which is kind of annoying. It's neither here nor there, but it's kind of like one of those mini interactive things that I'm used to having. Okay, sorry. I'm just going to turn that back on because for some reason it's off, and we'll see if it pops up. It should pop up if I refresh the source. Hello, there it is. There she is. That's what I wanted, the custom rotator. That just tells who followed recently. Although I guess it's kind of boring and like maybe that's why it was off because right now it's just going to be follows, which is lovely. I love all my new followers and stuff, but it's like it's a little boring to have on screen because I used to be a Twitch affiliate. I left the affiliate program. Oh, pardon me, about a year ago, a little over a year and a half ago. And so now there's no like subscribers or anything like that on my channel. For reasons that I won't go into. But regardless, my point was Stream Elements, it's not working. So my follow alerts are working, but like my audio stuff isn't working. So like if you redeem audio stuff right now, it just doesn't work. Like I'll give you an example. Like this is one of my audio commands. It comes up, it says that it did it, but nothing happens on stream. I went through and tried to figure out what was going on and why it's broken, but it just is. So it must be something on Stream Element side because it doesn't even play. If I can get it to play in the browser from the source file, but not from the command. Anyways, all that to say, I spent way too long trying to fix that audio issue, and I didn't fix it, so fantastic. Oh, my screens are a little bit fucky wucky. Hold on just a sec. We're gonna move them so it's easier for me to slide y'all over here. Because again, I am downstairs in my living room. And we're gonna play some observation duty. The plan is to try and get through another level, and then maybe play some Phasmophobia as a like whacked out drinking game. But we'll see how that goes. Sorry, I'm just moving my other screen so I can keep an eye on chat as necessary. Y'all can hear the game. Yeah, you can. Cool. Let's swap on over. Let's also zoom this out so I can see what the fuck is going on. There we go. Hell yeah. Hello? There we go. There we go. I can function. I swear I can. Okay, so we've done ranch and airplane. We're gonna do the fashion venue now, and then we just have office and research station left. So we're gonna try and get through, like we're gonna try and complete this, and then move on to Phasmo. So we'll see. Anyways, fashion venue. Reports of possible anomalous events have prompted heightened redacted of a fashion show in Berlin's Redacted. The invite-only event is described as a showcase for anonymous up-and-coming designer known for their occult influences, but a visitor to the event contacted local authorities reporting redacted during the event. Despite the venue having been redacted, remote surveillance indicates that the catwalk models continue their routine as if in a deep trance. Preliminary information indicates that the show's exclusive invite list was comprised of potential customers of Black Market Redacted, being supplied by representatives of Redacted, a Korean headquartered corporation organization. Organizers' notes found on site refer to a large guest of honor, with Redacted expected to be in attendance for the evening. Ooh, this is fun. So this has, like, yeah, you can see it on stream. There's separations, which is rare for the redactions. Like, it's usually just one solid bar, so that's probably... This is probably a secret. I don't necessarily know what kind of secret or like how it would help with the story, but it is what it is. Let's keep going. Okay. Oh no, this place is... Okay. We've got a vertical TV set up. We've got bottles and a creepy statue or 5. Right, the models are really freaky. Hat, camera, purse, it looks like, lighting, jackets, lots of jackets, hairspray and shaving cream and deodorant. Yeah, lotion, great. This is creepy as hell. Gotta love it. Bottle service, yup. Okay, I didn't think it could get weirder, but it can. That looks like MS Paint. I know it's like a point of sale thing, but it looks like MS Paint. Cool. That does have a face on it. Oh, okay. So it looks like 3 gray mannequins, a white mannequin, another white mannequin, half a mannequin. Creepy ass paintings. Great. Okay, let's get cracking. This is gonna be... Are they like holding their... I'm not gonna ask... Fuck. I don't like when they have moving elements. It freaks me out. I don't remember seeing that, but it's too early. When did she get there? Yeah. Everything looks so cool and fine. We'll see how many attempts this one takes, because we did learn last time that there are like mini games in this one, so it might be a bit much to do on the first go. Seems to be the same two models. So bizarre. Oh. I feel like the head was facing a slightly different direction last time. No? Okay. Screw me, I guess. Oh, there's so many little bits. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to keep track of all these little bits. It's definitely going to take me a couple goes. Was there always one right there? Oh, good grief. Right. There's definitely already a few anomalies, but I am at a loss. It's going to take me a while to get comfortable with this one. Okay. Has he gotten bigger? It's not really an object, so maybe he's gotten closer. It's not really an option otherwise. Nope, just me sucking at life. Okay. The models are freaky. How are they image anomaly, I guess? Yeah, because why was her hat like, oh, it was a completely different image. It's not just that her hat was sticking out. Frick. Okay. I don't like the mannequins being the way that they're being. I haven't really looked at the outfits they're wearing too closely, but they seem consistent. So I hope the outfits aren't one of the things that gets wonky. I'm surprised they're not making us like look at the reflections closely instead of they're just kind of blurry, but I guess that would be a pain to render. Oh no. Oh. Very uncomfortable. I've only found one, and it's already one. That is not a good sign. This is not, this is, wait, oh no, this is troublesome already. Okay, okay. Yeah, still weirdly backless. Yeah, I know, I know. I'm not surprised at all. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure that's normal, and I'm just now, I'm just like, where are they? We're gonna have to just, we're just gonna lose this round, and that's okay. Um, yeah, no, I need to, what do you mean? What do you mean? I'm not supposed to find things the first round. Have these been replaced? Like, they used to match these, and now they're those. I doubt it. Oh, God, this is a weirdly unsettling venue. I don't even think it needs to be tied to the occult. It's just weirdly unsettling. Oh, hello? Image, or is it an intruder? Okay, well, that's Cool. There's hope for me. That's weird. Replacement? Why is it so big? I don't remember there being a giant bottle. No. Okay. We're still gonna... Wow, it's windy as hell here. We're still probably gonna lose, but that's okay. Are we missing a lobby, catwalk, backstage, bar, store, storage? Okay, no, we're not missing anything. Sorry. There's kind of like a big family thing going on right now. So I do, as usual, I have my phone on vibrate so I can check just in case. And it buzzed. Sorry. I currently exist in a really weird state. Emotionally, not physically. Was this always here? I feel like it wasn't, but I think it was. I'm just, again, grasping at straws because I'm freaking out because we already got the... These weren't so low, were they? They were higher up. Unless they're just extra and those were the only ones that were here before. Okay, screw me. Apparently I don't know what's going on here. Oh, come on. We're gonna lose it in like 2 seconds. I think it freaks me out so much that they're moving on the other screen that I can't help but just click away quickly. Oh no. Yeah, okay. Object replacement in the catwalk, image anomaly in the bar, and object replacement in the store. Okay, let's restart. I believe in me. We can do this. Okay, so he does have a white back. This is a column. This is kind of weird setting. Yes, general kind of vibes from this room. Goodness only knows what the image replacement was. It's got to be something like this or this, because it's really the only images in the game. A replacement? Oh, I think these two swapped. Those really were always that low. Yeah, okay, okay. We got this. Creepy as hell. Creepy. Okay. Pretty normal. Couple beers on most tables. Even that one. This is just that weird worm that we keep seeing. It's the same 2 models. Just over and over. I don't remember if that was open the whole time or not. Can you imagine being stuck at your job? Just doing it like there's no tomorrow forever. Goodness gracious. Mannequins are so creepy. They shouldn't be. That's weird. They shouldn't be. Because it's just, you know. Oh, that changed. Movement? I don't know if it moved or if it just, like, replaced. I think it replaced, technically. Oh no, it just turned around. Okay. Everything seems fine. Sure. So shiny. You'd think it'd be easier to keep track of everything since it's all like strange. It's also weird. It should be memorable, but it's just the exact opposite. It's so unmemorable. Sure. Okay. I feel like at some point one of the models is that's gonna come out isn't gonna be a model. It's gonna be a creature, and that's gonna be one of the special events. But it's like something you have to catch at the right time. At this point, we've seen so much of this naked man. Like, an absurd amount of the naked man. It's pretty casual, pretty fine. Oh, she's changed again. It's like, that one's actually surprisingly subtle, considering the fact that it goes from a two-dimensional image to a three-dimensional image. Like, it doesn't, it jumps off, but it's quite subtle compared to some of the other ones. Pardon me. I'm sorry. I am a sleepy girl these days. Um, like, without getting into it, this is just so I can cut this later if I upload this on YouTube. But like, my family stuff that's going on means that I have to be up at off hours, right? Because like, I'm so far away, so it's, you know, 8-ish hours difference. So it means I have to be awake at like the dumbest hours ever. Yeah, anyways. So I'm just exhausted because I'm not sleeping. That was weird. Did this change? Does it count as an image anomaly because it's like a painted wall? The answer is no. The chances are it also didn't change. Oh, I have not been looking at these very closely at all. This is going to be something that gets me again. But the longer I do it, the more comfortable I'll get and the better I'll learn the location. Sure. Was this... I feel like this wasn't always... I feel like this used to be different and not a reflective surface? No? Okay. Just imagining things? Yeah, that's fair. I also don't remember there being a candle. There's been a candelabra in front of there for a minute, like at least the last 2 times we've been in here, but I don't remember it being there at the beginning. Just fantastic. Okay. I mean, that's a shame. You know, he didn't have, it was like it's not like the show was to die for. It's pretty chill. Like, I'm watching the same rotation of clothes on this stage, and they're all right. At least I think it's the same rotation of clothes. I haven't been paying close enough attention, even though it's my job. I'm on observation duty, and I suck at it. Oh gosh, I know I'm missing stuff. I know I'm missing. I could feel it in my bones. And yet, I feel like they're moving. What, like, not that one, possibly this one. Something about her shape feels wrong, but guess not. Guess I'm just freaked out by mannequins for no reason. Oh no. I can feel myself missing things, but I can't see them. Oh, come on. You've got the sculpture of Baby Worm. These look pretty okay. I also kind of thought that like fashion shows were more for vibes and there wouldn't be like a shop because again, I just feel like this has changed somehow. Um because like the stuff being made for the show isn't necessarily wearable so much as like over exaggerations of upcoming trends. Get back with your brothers. There's no way you were off. No, there's no way you were off by yourself. That's wild. That's not correct. Okay, at least we've gotten an obvious one, so we won't get buzzed quite yet. It gets me every time when they're just right here. Oh man, I've got to be missing so many. Is that image different? I don't remember it having so much black in the image itself. Nope. Screw me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, so 3, 6. There's only 6 cameras. And I am struggling. Oh, hello. You're extra. I was like, why can't I see this mannequin very well? It's really hard for me to see it. I used to be able to see it so well. Yeah, I wonder. I wonder. I wonder why I can't see the mannequin. Maybe it's because there's a chair that wasn't there before. Mm-hmm. Lobby, catwalk. Backstage. Bar. Store. storage. Okay. That's creepy as hell. I guess they replaced her head, so it's a replacement. Well, I mean, like, I'm doing better, but I feel like it's because I've gotten some really obvious ones. So it's not so much that I'm doing better because I'm getting better. It's doing better because they're giving me obvious ones. The game's like, here, I'm gonna throw you a bone because you're really sucking. Which, thank you. But also, feels bad. Feels gross. Feels like I suck. Which I do, so that makes sense. Gosh, she is... Her strut, it looks painful. That's weird. Was that a special item? I mean, there's also something missing in here. There's a missing coat. The plaid one. It's my favorite one. Okay. I'm seeing stuff. I'm seeing things. Nothing helpful. This looks basically like the same purse, but I'm not actually sure if it is. But there's no harm, so... Also, are there extra chairs? The chairs kind of look extra. Nah. Intruder, what is this, bar? Intruder, bar, water. Because he's fire, so I'm water? Okay. The handyman? What a name. I didn't look in here very long, actually. I just kind of accidentally went forward, but... And then needed to deal with the intruder. We're doing okay. Wait. Yeah, that's fine. I swear every time I come in here, this room feels more crowded. But I think that's just mental. And not actually a thing that's happening. We're doing okay. Still got that girly. We still got these girlies. Everybody looks fine. Just a little freaky. I haven't seen anything in here this round. That makes me nervous. Makes me so nervous. Did we play rock, paper, scissors with a man who has two hands for a face? Is that what we were doing? But it was fire, water, earth, question mark? Oh, there's a chair missing. I was like, why can I see so much? Well, girl, there's a whole chair missing. Nice. Did he used to have both hands up? Like, I feel like I remember at the start seeing 4, like, hand feet situations. No? Okay. Just my imagination? Just, like, fiending for the dogs? Just wanting all the little bean toesies and fingies outs? Yeah, of course. Of course I want all the toes and fingies. Ugh. Yeah, I'm like, there's some shit missing. Yeah, cool. Was this always here? It definitely was, actually, now that I think about it, because this has always been empty and there's always been, like, just a table. They look fine. They're creepy as hell, but they look fine. This looks the same as always. Oh, hello. You're back. We're not doing bad. I'm actually doing pretty okay, which is fabulous. That's weird. What is that? What is that? It just looks like a stick. But like what why? Why is it there? Why did I never notice it? It's just a cable. I don't like it. Maybe it's a replacement? Maybe there was something else there that I'm just not remembering? That's the same. I'm not seeing anything in this room. There's gotta be stuff, but I'm just not seeing it, which is frustrating. A rift in the store. It's gonna kind of eat the store if you guys don't load faster. Maybe, the RAM crisis has hit everyone hard, and even even observation duty is not exempt. They can't run it fast enough. I'm not seeing anything. Maybe I'm missing some lights or something, but I have no idea. I feel like I'm missing something super obvious. Storage, lobby. Everybody's where they're supposed to be. Catwalk. Freaky but no surprises. Oh my gosh. Uh, missing objects. I know, I know, I know. What do you mean? What do you mean? Image anomaly? There's whole things missing. Movement? What do you mean? Extra objects? Okay. Oh, maybe it was a replacement? That probably makes more sense. Okay. Freaky, but sure. So it's like that's 2. Is there another one somewhere then? Because I don't remember if the max is 3 or 4 at a time before it, like, starts telling you there's too many. Wait a minute. Lobby, catwalk, backstage, bar, store, storage. Okay. That's different. Didn't it used to be white? It's been replaced with a gray one. Exactly the same, just darker. That's weird. That's a tricky one. She freaks me out. There's been so many ghosts in here. Little ghosty friends. Yeah, that used to be there. I'm so screwed. I have an hour. I just need to make it an hour. I just need to make it an hour, not missing any. And we all know I'm already missing some. Gosh, that face mask is wild. She's there, she's there, she's there. All our friends are here. Our 2 friends are here. This is fine, even if a little freaky. Was this always red? It was, right? It was always red. It wasn't one of these. Now I'm just tripping. Now I'm just clicking stuff to click stuff, you know? Mm-hmm. 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 Yep. Yep, yep, yep. God, I am actually so scared. I'm so worried. What if I... Ooh, 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 ooh. Image anomaly. Yes, finally. Finally. Finally something in that room, so I stopped feeling so freaked out about it. Freaked? Oof, that's a bad one. Oh, there's a bunch of stuff missing. Missing objects. We're doing great. We're doing so good. I have so much hope for me. Get it, girl. Get it with your freaky ass. Yeah. That's why he's so creepy, man. Why he's so creepy. Store. Mm-mm. Yeah, this all looks fine. Her mask is still the same. I don't even know. I don't think they would do something that cruel. But at the same token, oh, that's extra. That didn't used to be there, did it? Oh my god. Please tell me that's extra. That's not extra. That's been there this whole time. Unless it just moved. Unless it used to be somewhere else. Oh my god. And I never noticed it. Oh shit. Oh, I'm so... Oh, ugh. That's creepy. Absolutely wildly creepy. Although at the same token, if I finish this, then I have to go play Phasmo. I say have to. No one's making me, but like, and like technically I want to, but solo Phasmo is always such a bad idea. Object replacement. This used to be like big concrete squares. Frick. It's like, I'm making the rules so I could play another map and be like, yeah, we're playing more of this. But at the same token, it's like, girl, eventually you do have to play Phasmo with the new updates. Like, eventually. Oh, this is different. I don't. Uh. Replacement? Oh, no. I meant to press extra object. There we go. Are you for real? That's been raised this whole time? I feel like the most they would do with the models is have like the same one walk twice. So you'd essentially get rid of a model and replace it with a dupe. Some extra beer bottles. Oh, there was not that many hangers. There's no, there were definitely not that many. You're kidding. Fuck me, I guess. Shit. Terrible at this game. Every 5 seconds, I'm just like, there's no way this was there. Shit, it definitely was. Storage, lobby, catwalk, backstage, bar. Yeah. I, waiting for that one to move. Wait, am I for real gonna get this? There's no way it lets me. What? What do you mean? I thought for sure I'd missed stuff. Um, I mean, okay. So then do I wanna change the rules and do the office? I don't think so. I think we kind of have to do Phasmo. I feel like that's what I said. Sorry, it's trying to launch Phasmo in VR mode. That's what I said I was gonna do. So, great. Okay. We'll do. Oh god. Oh my god. Excuse me, Phasmo. I'm so sorry, but like I haven't played you in so long. Hello. I like that my PC has decided that it just doesn't want to function. Hold on. Hello? It's functioning fine. It just doesn't want me to. It doesn't want me to, it didn't want me to have my mouse. So it was like, it wouldn't let me go into the game. Oh, man, this is improved. Okay. So, I haven't played in a very long time, evidently. It has completely reset my project progress. So, I have $575. I have an equipment manager, the shop, quick loadouts, cool. Um, buddy system, all loadout two, $0. So, what do I even own? I own a dots projector, apparently, a flashlight, spirit box, the UV light, EMF reader. Oh, the like basic shit. Right, okay. And I can't have more stuff, really. I have a motion sensor, photo camera, parabolic mic somehow, sound recorder. Okay. So I haven't played uh Phasmo since 2021. I'll say 2022, I think. That's probably that's probably more accurate. Um, right, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna do a loadout with everything that I have, like one of everything that I have. Unless, is that what buddy system is? No, duh. So this is gonna be the solo loadout. And we'll go ahead and rename it. Can I rename it? Enable loadout? Oh, okay. Can I also grab the parabolic? I feel like I don't need it though. You can't have sanity medication? That's so mean. So low. That's what we'll call this. Okay. Start or to join what's in the truck. Okay, okay, cool. Yeah. We're gonna go ahead and play single player. We're gonna, yeah, we'll stay on amateur because it's been a hell of a long time. Oh, the truck comes with shit. Let's go ahead and just be Scary White Lady number 4. Yeah, let's... Okay. No. Sure. Welcome to Quick Loadouts. Yeah, Equipment Manager. Let's go ahead and do this. And let's just bring the bare minimum. Let's also bring a phone. No, let's bring the bare minimum. Let me get comfortable with this again. And then and get some. Whoa. Yeah, this has changed so much. Vote on a contract? Holy shit. What is this game? So they redid Tanglewood, right? I used to do Tanglewood a ton. So let's go ahead and do Tanglewood. We've got the bare minimum. Uh, this is wild. Let's just go for it. Okay. Okay. I want I want Oh, that's freaking fair. Okay. We're gonna Hello? It might be we're gonna apply that real quick. Oh no. Can I want to toggle it on and off. Okay. Um let me let me learn my control. What's the mic button? Local push to talk global V and B. I do remember that. Hello. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Go ahead and apply that. Okay. That's yeah, better. Okay. I forgot that was a thing. Oh shit. Right. Is there an option for um what's it called? For voice recognition? What? No. For uh oh, I want it in Celsius, yeah. Sprint mode toggle. Also, can I remove head bob? I am a chronically ill girly. Um, do we have anywhere in here an option for no. Okay. I was looking for captions of some description. Because it was despite being it was really quiet, which might actually be my audio settings. Let me. Because it was quiet for me, but I don't know if it was quiet for y'all. Probably not. It looks like mine was just really low. Okay. Let me go ahead and just check something. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, I do remember that audio. Oh, the shittiest. Uh, God, something moved outside and it fucking spooked me. Girl, I'm not well. I'm not well. Can I crouch? There we go. What? Why can't I do things to that gnome? Oh God, it's so dark. Oh, Okay, so that was a ghost event. That was a ghost event. Gotcha. Okay. Um. Oh, right, I have stamina. Wh- why? Why is it so aggressive? Bruh, why is it so aggressive? What do you, what do you mean? What do okay. Um, why do we think it's a spirit? What? Why is this circled already? Okay, so I guess let me. Hello? I've forgotten. There we go. I have forgotten how to play this game entirely. I would love to do more. Ghosty, could you write in this book, please? Ghosty is ruining my life. Ghosty is ruining my fucking life. Okay. Okay. I mean, I don't see any like handprints. I don't see anything really. Um I should have left this there too. Shit. Um like it's obviously super active. Um I haven't played this game in so long that I don't actually even know like what to look for, let alone, you know. Used to be able to like place this down, but I don't think I can anymore. Um, yeah, I don't really. Good grief. I don't want to. I don't want to say anything in the house, but I think it's afraid of light. It seems to be. I don't remember which ones are afraid of light. Um, oh, it might take. Oh man, like it's gonna take me a while. Taking a photo will make it temporarily disappear. Phantoms used to get me every damn time. What the frick is in the basement? Okay. Um, is anybody afraid of light? Didn't there used to be one that was afraid of light? Or is that burning incense near them? Thrives on electrical current? No. Oh my goodness. Okay, just. I'm gonna go ahead and like select Mare and just call it like it's not gonna be, but I'm too much of a little bitch to keep doing this by myself. So we're probably frick, it was an Obombo? What's an Obombo? Okay. Yeah, I don't I need to like study the ancient texts. Like, what do you mean? Um, can I okay. So what is an Obombo? Obombo. Shades of calm and aggression. Oh. So it was this. Okay. Ghost hunt and distribution and appreciation before the date. Oh, that's cute. Hello? Why is it so freaky in there? There used to be all kinds of like little treats in the lobby that I kind of miss, like the creepy things in the rafters and stuff behind doors and whatnot. I do miss those things. Gosh, it's been so long since I've played this game. Yeah, I might just have to get the, gosh, we used to play in a big group and we have so many clips of all of that. And I might just have to, hello? Oh, interesting. It is kind of strange the way they zoom in on these things. Not chump change. Work experience. Crimson Eye. Oh, that was a good event. What was this guy for? Yeah, but I want to read, like, the plaque. What does the plaque say? Summoning Circle. Oh, good grief. Okay. Um, right, okay, so me and my 3 brain cells need to get their shit together because I can't remember shit about this game. And they've also added just a ton of stuff, which is fantastic. Twitch drops. I'll worry about that later. But yeah, I might actually. Oh my gosh, wait, they still have the training round? Maybe I should have started with the training round. Okay, let's do the new training because this is wildly different than it used to be. Okay. Here at Ghost Hunt Distribution, we'd like to welcome you to our training facility. To start, grab a flashlight behind you. You can toggle the flashlight with Use if equipped, or Special if it's in your inventory. You can cycle through your held items to change which one you're holding. You can carry 3 items at once. When you're ready, grab the key to the right, then interact with the keypad to the left. Okay, sure. Sure. Grab, place, drop. It's cold in here already. Special hold T. Interesting. Okay. I assume that's stuff I'll learn about eventually. Sure. Okay. So we have. We're gonna go through the trading. We're gonna. Oh my God, this has been upgraded so much. Okay. Ghost room. Your first goal when entering a haunted location is to find the ghost's favorite room. This is a room where the ghost will spend the majority of its time. To find the ghost room, look out for open doors, items that have been thrown, or sounds coming from that area of the location. When playing higher difficulties, ghosts can change their favorite room when wandering to open a door, interact with it, and move forwards. Why can I collect? Why can I collect stuff? Room 1. Interact. Left mouse button. Cool. Room 2. Ghosty! Donut. Okay. Sorry, I was having fun. Room 3. I will say, so I have it on push to talk. Is it actually push to talking? Hell yeah, it is. Because it wasn't last round, and that was not great. Each investigator has their own sanity level represented in the track by a percentage on the screen. When playing in a team, you also have an average sanity level. Standing in the dark, ghost defense and abilities. You restore your sanity by taking pills. Try it out, grab it, and use it. You should see your sanity increase.
Good job.
Oh. Why did it just, like, chuck? It sounded like I drank it, but okay, whatever. Keep your sanity level stable. You should stand in lit rooms or areas. Yeah, this is the same. Each location has a maximum number of lights. Cool. Yeah, I do remember that. By playing with the lights to the right. Okay.
Well done.
Sir, please. I don't like being in the dark. Genuinely, this is so much of a better, what's it called? Tutorial. Man, I just can't speak today. This is so much of a better tutorial than it used to be. I'm so proud of them. This is such a huge change. You need to find 3 evidence types, but for this training, we'll show you all 7. Cool. EMF spots are left behind on almost everything a ghost interacts with. These hotspots last around 20 seconds and can be read with an EMF meter. Okay. So if your EMF reader is displaying a 5 or higher, this is evidence. Open your journal and check. EMF 5. Cool. This is pretty much the same, so it's nice.
Nice work.
Nice. You know what? Just for you, I'm gonna... Yeah! Okay. Look at it! If you find, make sure to note them. Some ghost types leave UV handprints, or if they walk in well-placed, we activate them. If you shine it around, if you find them, make sure to note them down. Lastly, if you shine it on a print for long enough, it will become charged, allowing you to swap to the camera. Oh, that is a much better, like, because before you used to basically have to have one person holding it and one person, you know, taking the picture, and it didn't always register, and that made it extremely difficult in solos. That is such a nice improvement. Hello. Will always be with you. Okay. Another handprint. Yeah. We said don't leave. Ugh. I don't like when the ghosts are a little bit spicy about their...
Well done.
Oh, okay, footsteps. That was the only one I was missing. Cool. Grab a thermometer and walk into each room. Check the temps. You're looking for freezing. Cool. Oh, right. Just for shits and giggles. We're gonna mark them all. Goodness, I remember back in the day when cold breath counted as freezing temps. Ugh. And they changed it reasonably so that it was harder to detect instead of just being like, well, I saw my breath, so obviously. Because you could literally walk into a house and do it in 3 seconds or less. Okay, so it's super warm in here. Pretty much the same in here. It's getting chilly in here. It's going down. Will it hit? It takes so long to hit freezing, though.
Move to the next room.
That takes so long. Oh, it used to be kinda instant. Oh, that's terrifying. Okay. Dots projector. Small flicker into the paranormal. All you need is to grab a projector, turn it on with use, aim the light where you think a ghost may be. If you see a ghostly silhouette appear, you found some evidence. Again, just for shits and giggles. Ugh. Freaky. Oh, goodness gracious. What kind of... Don't get too close to the ghost. Shit. When a ghost reveals itself in Dot's form, it will walk towards the closest player if they're inside the same room. You can use this to get those particularly shy ghosts to come within range. Look at them. They're so cute. Okay, so they will move towards you if you're in the same room. Good to know. Oh, yes. Oh. I was hoping I could make fun of that, but no. And again, just for fucking shits and giggles. Oftentimes when filming with a video camera, investigators have found unexplainable flicks of light. Grab a video camera, turn on night vision. You can place it down and view the feed from the safety of the truck. I kind of forgot that night vision was a thing. How do you place it, though? Is that another, like, use? Because I remember I used to do, like, a little outline friend, you know? A gorb. Ghost orbs. We love ghost orbs.
Nice work.
Cool, I just needed to get closer to the second one. Fuck off. Ghostwriting. They'll interact with it, known to write vague messages if a book is left long enough. Place it somewhere near the ghost. Sometimes the ghost will either throw the book or write in it. For the latter, the notice, you can, this evidence. Great, I speak English. Ah, so that is the error that I made. I placed it wrong.
Well done.
What do you write? Oh my gosh, that's actually really cool. The animation has changed significantly and I love it. Oh, Spirit Box, my favorite one. By that I'm being sarcastic. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? I know I just did global, but like, where are you? Hello? Where are you? I did let's try toggle. Cause yeah, there we go. Where are you? Where are you? Does a ghosty not like my question? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? It seems to be struggling with my mic for some reason. Where are you? No, it's working. Where are you? Where are you? Ghosty! Where are you, Ghosty? I don't know. Hello? Give us a sign? Where are you? Where are you? Yeah, I don't. It's not really cooperating. Where are you, Ghosty? Maybe it's shy. Where are you?
Good job.
Yes. Just shy. Okay, hunts. During contracts, ghosts can initiate an attack on you and your fellow investigators. The attacks have a chance to occur once your sanity has reached an average threshold of 50%. Some ghost types might attack earlier or later than this. Okay. Depending on the difficulty you're playing, you may have to you you may have a setup timer. This is normally displayed on a large LED clock. Yep. This will stop your sanity going below 50% as well as prevent hunts. When a hunt starts, the exit doors lock. The ghost starts searching. Turn off your equipment, hide in a locker, crouch behind something tall, and wait until it's over. Enter the next room to simulate a hunt. Okay.
Something's not quite right. You better hide, quickly. That was a close one. Congratulations on completing your training. You can exit through the truck by interacting with the keypad.
Okay. So, yeah, basically it's a more elevated version of what I remember, um, which is good. But yeah, I definitely needed to do that because I shit has changed. Shit has changed significantly. Like it it's all basically the same, but yeah. Um
Back. There's
I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop there with Phasmo for today. I'm going to um play another round of observation duty. Um and I'm gonna get some friends together to play uh Phasmo at some point in the near future because I do miss it. It is quite fun. Um Sorry, I'm just swapping things back. Oh, that's interesting. It doesn't want to switch. There it goes. Okay. It didn't want to switch to observation duty. Oh, I didn't even read the. Nope. Nope. We have to go back to the menu. We have to. I have to read it. I can't. Reports that an organization of interest had completed the purchase of a commercial property in a high population urban center of blank triggered an initial inquiry into the location. Findings indicated redacted activity, including strange seismic readings and sudden appearance of mysterious holes. The company in question is redacted, listed as an adventure tourism organizer, but all names listed in the company's corporate records appear to be redacted. Interviews with employees of nearby companies indicate that no one has been seen to enter or leave the building. Upon entry of the premises by a ground team, the building appeared to be in active use despite being empty. Contact information for the redacted was found, but attempts to reach them were unsuccessful. All right, we're going to continue. We're going to do this. I believe in us. We're in Korea. Okay. So I have a feeling the name of this company has something to do with the redaction from the fashion industry one. Cute. We're a little obsessed with the company, but whatever. A single banana. Creepy. Love it. Okay. And we're about to get reception. Okay, so there's 6 cameras again. There's no way we're getting this one on the first go, just because I have a horrible track record as it is of getting these, so it's gonna take me a minute to get used to what we're dealing with here. This seems like a bad place to put those, not gonna lie. Everybody's got the same computer background. This is great. I don't remember there being shoes there. Was this always small? I don't remember there being a border around it. I remember it just being in the frame. And was this always red? Shit. Was that always open? It's been 3 seconds. And I'm already just like, was this, hold on. I don't remember anything. This moved. There's no way that didn't move. That moved. Thank you. I don't know why that got me so much. It bothered me. Weren't these like... Nah, they were always written. I was gonna say, I don't know why I thought they were like graphs or something last time. Instead of, that's not correct. Why are there so many beers in the boss's office? We drinking? We boozing on the job, kids? I mean, at this point, we may as well be. The world's going way weird. Oh, good grief. See if we can do this one, to be honest, before I need to go for the day. Because again, I have things to do. But I want to stream. I mean, technically, I don't have to complete it. I can just kind of like play around and then be like, all right, we're done for today. I am in charge. That's what streaming is. It's weird, but I am just like doing this for fun. Mm. Got a cubicle, got the break room, got the boss's room, got the balcony, back to reception. Okay, pretty boring office. Shit. That's the sound of I've definitely missed something. Back to reception? Yeah. Oh, oh, ew, ew, ew. Not it looking at me like this. Oh, why is it looking at me? We're fine. I'm fine. I'm just losing it over the desk watching me. Oh god, that was nasty. I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. Okay. Okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's the first go through. It's the first one, you know? Just kind of poke around, look at some stuff, see that everybody in this goddamn office has their taskbar set up as the Windows 11 default instead of swapping it to what it should be because it's more comfortable to use for them, I guess. What the hell is all this? I don't remember those being blacked out like that. That's weird. Cool. Apparently I was right. Fabulous. Great. Let's go ahead and miss something completely obvious, like the eyeball again, just to level it out, you know? Are we missing a room? Balcony, reception, bullpen, workspace. No, we're not. We're definitely not. I'm just extra paranoid on a consistent basis now. Cityscape seems fine for the most part. Bro, how many mugs do you need? Have those been there the whole time? Shit. Okay. That's actually a really pretty painting of betta fish. I always forget how pretty betta fish are. They're gorgeous, stunning little creatures. This is. Mm, the fashion show one felt easier. This feels harder. But maybe it's just because it's fresh. It's the first run through of this level. I've got to be missing something. It's almost 2 a.m. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. It's an office. It's a building. Feels normal. That's weird. The bullpen? The bullpen. Hello? Whatever it is, I'm not seeing it, which is, as expected at this point. Maybe if I flick through again, when I look at it with fresh eyes, I'll see it. That's. What is that? Why is it pink? I don't. Ugh. Why is it pink tinged? Reception, bullpen. Like, it's just a mug for the guy in the trash can? What? This is not supposed to be here. No, a mug for the guy in the trash. I understand. I understand. Okay. Oh. 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 Today is not the Oh, fuck. Okay. 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 I'm gonna lock in. I'm gonna do so much better. I missed a whole man. I missed a whole man in a trash can. Like a whole fucking individual. Saw the freaking mouse trap on the mouse. Missed the man in the trash can. And a missing monitor. Listen, I'm far from perfect. Far from it. But at least the fashion one only took 2 tries. So that's, it gives me confidence for today. Jeez, I can't believe I've missed a whole man. Can't trust my eyes now. What do you mean? What am I supposed to do with my eyes? They don't work. Okay. Everything else seems fine. Sure. Yeah. It's fine. Bullpen is fine. I don't trust my eyes. I don't trust them. I feel like I should just start this one over and be like, all right, let's do this again. Because obviously, I wasn't looking. This all seems fine. I don't remember that being there, but I think that's. Hello? Where are the stairs? Where are the stairs? I'm over here like, I don't remember that being there, but I'm sure it was there. And the stairs are missing? Fuck. Okay. It's fine. It's fine. Perfect. 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 Yeah, that's always been off. Sure. Only person in the office that doesn't have this as their screensaver, I guess. Sure. There might be something missing back there, but couldn't be bothered. I did not like that. Can I leave, please? Oh, thank God. Okay, as long as she leaves. The Savage? That's a hell of a name for a floating head with sharp teeth. Yup. Okay. Can't miss that one. like physically impossible to miss that one. Mm. Is this just a light anomaly? Like, what the hell is this? Why is it blue? Why is it blue? What is here? What is going on? I guess it's just blue. Stop asking questions. Just let it be blue. It's an ugly floor in there. Right, didn't it used to be, um, like a weird, ugly tile? Sorry, I clicked off. Game doesn't like when you click off it. Yeah, there's the weird, ugly tile I know and love. No wonder why this blue light was so obvious. How do I tie my shoes in the morning? Like at this point, shit, I may as well just be drooling. This is, oof. We are not showing, we are not showing promise. Sure, whatever. Was this always here? I don't remember there being a rug here. Listen, they're all tough. They're all tough as far as I'm concerned. I remember this plant, but I don't remember this rug. Um, which is such an oddly specific thing to remember. Um, they're all tough. I'm hard on myself because who else is gonna be? Um, I should not be left unattended. E. Uh, what fucking room is this? Can I just? Yes. E. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh, E. Yeah. In the break room. There we go. There we go. That's how you do that. Yeah. 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 Now that I look down, sorry, my other monitor is in my lap currently, because I didn't want to sit upstairs today to do this. So I'm downstairs in my very cozy living room instead. But yeah, I was like, there's a better way to do this. It's always a better way. Uh, I don't 100% know. There's something missing. There was like a brown box on one end of this or something. No, there was a brown box. I remember it. I remember it vividly. I remember it vividly. Oh, it did a 180. Fuck. No, fucking out. I can't click. I can't. Jesus. But I'm my own worst enemy at this point. I did it again. I did it twice in a fucking row. The same one. Just actually, honestly, if the earth could swallow me whole real quick, that would be ideal. Hi, that's smoke. Good grief. That's weird. Um, image anomalies, I guess. Because that's the closest that I can think of for a bunch of redacted text. K-pop's fine. All of this is fucking fine looking. Yeah, whatever. At least there's no man in the trash can that I'm missing this time. Shit. See? Well, I guess it's pink. I suppose it's pink. Good grief. Y'all look perfectly normal. It's alarming. I'm gonna just go ahead and call that an intruder. At least I didn't miss the fucking banana creep. My god. What's with this game and bananas? I know they're slightly radioactive. It's fine. We don't have to be scared of bananas. Cookies, sandwich, couple of beers, some coffee. Yeah. Reception seems alright. I'm not seeing any missing posters or weird artwork. Still got 4 vases. We're doing great. Break room bosses. Okay. 6 of them. I don't like it when they do that. I don't like it when they do that. It's freaky. Just come out with it, you know? Don't just be lurking around corners. I don't fuck with lurking around corners. Not that I fuck with just coming out with it either. Please just stay out of my workspace entirely. No, that's fine. We're in reception. We have an hour and a half to try. Was this looks weird. I think that's fine. I'm just being overcautious about it because yeah, okay. Um cool. Fantastic. Fabulous. We're doing great. Is this... No, that's fine. It was always a dishwasher. It was always a dishwasher. Definitely. Totally always a dishwasher. Hmm. 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 Mm-hmm. Right. Beautiful. Lovely. Well, that ain't right. Mm-hmm. Okay, reception, bullpen, workspace, break room. We're at 3. Room number 3. Obviously, we're at 5 a.m. Boss's room, balcony. Sir, please. Sir, please, this is a Wendy's. Workspace. Is that... That wasn't there before, was it? Or if it was it not the same as that one that's right there? Because, like, why are they the same? It was there. I'm just... Hello? It took away a whole fucking room. It said stop fucking reporting shit in this room. This room doesn't exist for you anymore. God damn it. That's happened twice while playing on this one, and that's pretty fucking funny, not gonna lie. Just like the odds of me accidentally going backwards and going forwards when it removes a camera. Slim, funny. Okay, reception, bullpen, workspace. I know it literally just did the camera thing, but now I'm paranoid. Okay. Okay. Sure. Reception. Oh. Hello. Doors, right. Doors exist. Bullpen. Workspace. It's one of my favorite anomalies. It's all the water stuff. It's fun. I like the whales on the lighthouse one. It's so pretty, and I like the sound. The audio's nice, just the little whales in the background, the bubble bubble from the water. Such a peaceful anomaly. Why can't we just leave it? That's weird. Was that always like that? I think it was, but fuck it. I've only got 10 more minutes. Creepy little cube faces with their teefies out. I mean, at this rate, we're gonna do the last one too. We've played, and we'll have played every map in this game. This specific one. Right, okay. Got it. Sorry, I clicked off it. I have forgotten how to be a streamer. But then again, it has been like 2 years. Yay! So that was the first go. So let's go ahead and... No! Shit! I did it again! We have to read it. It is part of my brain. I need it read. A deprecated Bodak Redacted has received a tip-off via Redacted transmissions to investigate a strange occurrences at a remote Antarctic research facility. The research facility in question was known to be investigating polar atmospheric entries and related phenomena, and has reported redacted findings from subsurface glacial strata for some time. Passenger manifests from one of the latest successful resupply ships indicate the facility recently hosted a Redacted traveling under a pseudonym who's presumed to be an employee of Redacted. The latest supply ships have been unable to hail the station on any communication frequency. Wait, it's still redacted. Sorry, I had to check. All right, we'll crack on. We'll do this one. Oh, that's not a disturbing angle. Great, okay. Right. Okay. A few samples here and there. It's kind of cloudy out there. Not cloudy, but like semi-opaque. Cool. They all have the same date circled on the calendars. I wonder if that's part of like the shit, what it's called, the external puzzle they have going on for all of these. Cool. We have a prisoner cell for some reason that we just watch while we're doing. I assume it's supposed to be like a test subject cell, but it's like very ugly, so I'm gonna go with prisoner. Right. Okay. Couple of snowmobiles. Looks like the research facility from The Thing. Love it. Okay. Can I report this as a whole and just move on with my life? Oh, and there's a clock in here, so I need to keep an eye on that as well. There's a clock in here. Okay. Check. Chess, not checkers. Oh god, this is gonna get me good. What looks to be like chicken and bacon smashed into a petri dish. Great. Whole. Yup. Mm-hmm. It's not even a big spider. Like, we've seen ones with actual huge spiders before. That's a little spider. Please don't show me a huge spider. Oh, hey, same company. You don't say. I'm so surprised. Is that just the periodic table? Hot. We love a science girly. That's been open, I just don't like it. I just don't like it. It's just freaky. This feels like it needs to open. Crummiest first aid cabinets ever. Creepy. I really hate the hole. I really hate the hole. This feels empty. I think I'm just getting it confused with a different room. Or a different area. Yeah. I think I'm getting it confused with the hello. We're missing stuff. With the office post-it notes. Are you for real? Oh no, did it move? Is that what it is? Let's hedge our bets. Did I just do fucking missing object a second time? Because I'm an idiot. Yes, I did. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was right about what moved, though. But it's smarter to click the empty space and say something moved than it is to click the thing you think may have moved in case you're wrong about what moved. Perfect, on time, on time. Yeah, sure. Is that a light anomaly in the lab out there? Kind of feels like it, but I think it's just that's what the lights do. Oh, nice. Surprised. What the hell is that? It looks like just a blob. I think it's supposed to be a pack of water, but it just looks ew. Just ew. It just looks like the plastic melted together, like just as a unit. Chicken and bacon in a dish. We're doing great. This one feels deceptive. I feel like I'm going to miss a lot of stuff here because I can't really tell what things are other than just kind of the obvious shapes. Freaky ass room. I really don't remember this being here though. It was here the last time we were in here, but I don't think it was before. It has to have been though. There's no way. Creepy. Sure. Oh, not the underwater one. There's gonna be a dude down here at some point. Like, you know it. He's gonna be swimming up from there, just being like, oh, I just came to visit. I don't want him to visit. Please don't visit. Please, sir, stay away. We're so tired of seeing your naked body everywhere. Just everywhere, sir. It's everywhere. It's always there. Thank you. It's much better. Also, out here, there's just gonna be a thing. Just a dude. Out in the gloom. I really do wish you could just report this as a whole and get that entire camera off. Where the fuck is this monitoring room? It's fine. It's totally fine. Between the the thing and then Nuclear Nightmare, which is just the thing but different. The whole thing. I don't remember this being here, but it had to have been. There's no way something that small would be an anomaly. Where it's just like a label they've put on the door. Yeah, let's go ahead and report the green quarantine shower, because that's freaky. I guess that does make sense why it's more of a prison cell, easier to clean. and make sure, you know, it's deep cleaned so that no one catches whatever you have in there, but still kind of creepy. Wasn't this the other way? Like, back, but the front facing that way? Nope. Okay. I thought it was just, like, twisted so that the back was still towards the thing, but the front was facing towards the lockers. But nope. Sure. 2 a.m. on that clock, 2 a.m. on this clock. We're crushing it. Please put those back where they belong. I don't like that they're not where they're supposed to be. Thank you. Mostly because I want to see that disgusting looking tiramisu every time I go in there. If I don't, I will cry. Chicken and bacon. Exterior. How many cameras are there? Oh, fuck. 3, 6, 7, 8. Okay. The site. The site of what? It's the site of the hole. So this blue glow is coming from here. Fuck. We're doing great. We're doing great. Maybe this is why I thought the chair was the other way. Just superimposing this from the other room or onto this room. Fuck, I haven't been looking down here at all. I've not even a little bit. It's getting to that time of day where I get blinded by the sunlight in this room, which is super cute, because I forgot that was a thing. Perfect. Perfect little image anomaly. Samples seem fine. Everything looks fine. Still chess. That's nice. I don't remember towels up here, but they must have been, because again, that seems like a really silly, small anomaly. Especially for 2:30. I hate the hole. I hate the hole so much. Please, please. Clocks are correct. 2, 3. I think that's a dead body, to be honest. Okay, cool. 4. This should be room 4. 1, 2, 3. Monitoring room, laboratory, rec room, quarters, quarantine, exterior, the site, underwater. Okay. Just making sure. Okay, we're back on track. Exterior, we're looking good. We're doing fine. the site. We're looking good. We're doing fine. Yeah, whatever. Underwater monitoring room. Okay. That's still facing the right way. This is still looking good. This is still wigging me out because I feel like in my brain, these were flush, like in the wall, not against it. But I'm gonna resist the urge. Try and get used to not doing it so I can do these in hard mode. We'll just call that a image anomaly. Why are there people out there? There's not supposed to be people out there. Was that an old image or the future or just out of curiosity, you know? Just wondering. To be fair, a good swap would be to swap this with one of the refrigerators from like the other ones, like the office fridge, so that your brain remembers it, but it's different. But then the chances that someone has played the 2 rounds back to back and would remember it that way, or in the order it's intended, are slim. So you're gambling there, really, as a dev. Bubbles. 3:15, we're doing fine. I feel like there's supposed to be more books on here, but again, I think that's just my brain being like, no, I want more books. But just because you want more things there doesn't mean it's supposed to be there. I hate the hole. I hate the hole so much. Monitoring laboratory, rec room. They're all here. Are those someone's pants or are those someone's fucking arms? What are those? They look like someone's arms peeking out from under the bed. I hate it. Um, is there an option for gravity going the wrong direction? Weather anomaly. There we go. Hey, why is the hole moving on this side? I don't like that. It's like undulating. It's creepy. Clock is correct. It technically is. We'll have to see how it functions, because like if this like flicks to 4 at the hour. Uh, what's with the fucking audio? How do I? Does it count as a camera mount? Like, what is this audio that's going on in this level? Oh, it's the abyss in front of my fucking face. Right, abyss makes noise. Gotcha. Yeah, okay, that's at 4 now. That's at 4 now. Got it. Okay. I was so focused on the stupid clocks. I got there eventually, you know? I got there. Just took me a minute. Just remembering back when they used to have audio anomalies. At least technically they still do, they're just set up different. Huh. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. Oh, okay. I guess it just moved forward, but it was always there. Interesting. I feel like usually it wouldn't have let me have that. Was this always here? It definitely was. I'm just, it was always there. I don't know what, yeah, what I was expecting. There aren't a whole lot of places for image anomalies in this one. Like, there's a couple of screens and stuff, but not like a whole lot of posters or anything custom. Like, nobody's, even in the bunks, there's no, I'm surprised they didn't do like a view from kind of under, like, in the middle of bunks so you could see someone's stuff like put up on the ceiling or something of the bunk above them. Were they always different colors? Were they always different colors? Oh, yeah, they always were. Okay, that's wild. Pfft, never fucking noticed that one. Great. Okay, UK weather. Quarters has an anomaly, but it's not to do with the beds. Fuck! Okay. I don't remember this being here. But it could be a number of things. Okay. It's missing something. Oh, fuck. Shit. What is it missing? There's all the boots. Wait, wasn't there a pair of shoes here? How long have I... Fuck. Missing a pair of shoes. Great. Beautiful. Lovely. Thank you. Saving my ass on repeat. I don't remember that being there. Oh god, I don't remember him being there. It's a whole dead person. Oh. Yeah, so the crate was there. The dead guy wasn't. Oh, fuck. That's new. Listen! there this whole time? Or what, did it move? Is that what it is? It was like over here. Nope. Fuck me. That's fine. Hey, wait a minute. Where's my friend? Didn't I have a friend here? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. I had a friend. Clocks are still fine. Clocks are still fine. I just focus on all the wrong things all the time. It's perfect. It makes me so terrible at these games. Third aid. Yeah, I gotta get my third aid in. Can't help it if I need third aid. Weren't there more slides? I don't think so. I think I'm just getting it confused with the petri dishes. If I hit this box, dead body. I should be better than this. This bucket that I can't handle existing. He came out of the hole, didn't he? I don't like it when they come out of the hole. I hate the prison toilet. There are always fucking snowshoes there. Oh, they were always there. I just never saw them with my eyes. Fishies! Extra objects. Even though they're living things. I love that for us. Oh yeah, the last hour of tense music. It's my favorite part of this game. Could I turn it down? Yes. Would I ever? No. That would be silly. That would be so silly. Absolutely foolish. Yeah, whatever. Still chicken and bacon looking shit. It looks fine. Everything's fine. It looks the same as when I got here. Because there's nothing in here. Come on. 5:30 in the monitoring room. I'm gonna say a dead body because it's hanging. Hmm. Cool. It's an intruder? Oh, it's not hanging. His feet are on the ground. Those are his long ass arms. Right, that's the husk. We love when we reuse a model. Yeah, exactly. It's the husk from the ranch. We love him. Has this been here the whole? It has been. It has been. It definitely has been, right? I don't know why I focus on the weirdest fucking shit. Just, I don't see it for the first 5 hours of the game. And then I see it. And I'm like, I have to address this now. It has to be. It's part of my brain now. I, we're just kind of here. There's nothing. We're getting close. We're getting so close. Mm-hmm. That just looks like a cinnamon stick. Doc, thank you. We've, you know, 5 minutes basically to not fuck this up. I believe in me too, Doc. Barely. Barely. A lifetime of anomaly detection. It really is. This game will be like, you have 5 minutes left. Cool. That's gonna take 10 hours of my life away because I'm dramatically opposed. No! It's fine. It's fine. We did it. It counts. It counts, even though there was a dead body. It has come to our attention that multiple undocumented anomalous objects have been spotted at your... Okay, it's considered... Please halt other work-related tasks and fill the attached anomaly report forms immediately. Alright. Toy car green metal SUV originally found on the yard swing of a ranch house in... Yes. What is this item? A toy. Where did you find this item? On my desk. What is the purpose of this item? It's a toy. A statuette of... recovered from... Okay. Of redacted material, recovered from redacted plane in redacted. Appearance seems roughly to match known redacted sighted at a recent redacted in Antarctica. A reminder. Fuck! 3 of them? Where did I found this? It found me. Was a purpose. To be seen. Not to be known, to be seen. A smart ring from an unknown manufacturer recovered from a fashion venue in Berlin seems to contain functionality for identification, biometric monitoring of the wearer's vitals, as well as performing redacted transactions using redacted, a cryptocurrency associated with redacted. Chamber, we know this. A ring with... Oh, it's a promise. Fuck it. We're going weird. It was a gift. What is the purpose? To be worn. A seemingly mundane coffee mug with the world's best prints printed on it. Recovered from redacted in redacted South Korea. The print seems to imply connection to a previously documented anomalous entity. Redacted. What is this? Redacted. Where did you find this item? On my desk. What's the purpose of this? It must be returned. Let's be, rubber duck, yellow, no notable unique features, recovered from a lighthouse near not the Falkland Islands, seems to have originated from a shipwreck of redacted ship nearby. A marvelous specimen. Where did you find it? In my dreams! What is the purpose of him? Redacted must redacted. You take baths with it, it must be bathed. As much as I want to say this, redacted must redacted. A business card for Redacted, an organization of interest, contains the slogan, The Opulence of Gods for Men, as well as a phone number originally belonging to Redacted, but since redirected to Bodak Redacted. What is this item? A way out. Chamber. Where did you find this? Where I was meant to. What is the purpose of this item? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Doesn't mean you should. Doesn't mean you should, Redacted should note that this infraction will result in a permanent mark on their record. Current infractions. 2 instances of being late to work, 1 instance of improper handling of redacted, 1 instance of violation of no mustache policy. Well, glad I'm clean shaven. 1 instance of redacted. This is your 5th infraction, will result in immediately loss of redacted. Have a pleasant day. I was hoarding secrets. Friends. Does that work? It does! Yay! I've set up Discord? OBS better now. I'm moving that because, ow, I have been cross-legged for too long, friends. Oh, fuck. So, For reference, we have moved into my living room because I didn't want to be upstairs, to say the least. Um, Sorry, I'm just checking messages, make sure there's no family stuff going on. Because I wanted to be cozy. I wanted to be comfy. I wanted to be the coziest, comfiest little girl to ever live. I say mostly sarcastically. But uh, that means that you guys are like on a very temporary setup, and also that I am on a sofa, very comfortably on a sofa, um, and was just like cross-legged as I love to be, but as is not necessarily great for my knees and shit because I am not as young as I used to be. Not as young as I used to be. I'll go ahead and do this. That's weird as hell. I'm assuming because OBS is not showing the output, y'all can't hear that right now. I've started music up again. But OBS isn't actually, yeah. So I've been running into a lot of interesting issues with OBS. There we go. Sorry if I deafened you. With audio stuff. And oh fuck, sorry. The latest issue has been that OBS just doesn't want me to have audio for anything. Like my sound alerts don't work anymore. We're gonna go to just chatting since I'm just gonna yap for a sec before I get off for the day. But yeah, so like my hold on, let me, for my sanity, I can turn it down in my headphones. So right, I have my sound alerts that we can use usually, where it's like I can do that and it's supposed to play a sound alert, right? Those don't work anymore. My follow alerts and things, those work, but not these. So if I do like a follow alert emulator right now, it works. So I have them playing from like the built-in Stream Elements thing. So it plays from here. It's so I like reset it up and all this other shit, and it just didn't work. So yeah, I screwed with it for like an hour before streaming, and just kind of gave up on fixing it. No, so it's not set to monitor only. I went through and the follow alerts and the fuck, what's it called? The sound effects all play out of the same audio output source thing. Sorry, that's like the worst description ever. But one of them works and one of them doesn't. So it's something to do, I think, with Stream Elements and like that side of things, and I need to like sort it out. But I was just like, I can't sort it out today. I can't. It will drive me nuts. So I just didn't. I was just like, screw it, we're streaming. I don't care. Yeah. And I am a hot mess today. I feel like death warmed over, and not in a cute way. Hey, I'm sorry, Doc. I'm sorry you're not feeling well. Um, hopefully you feel better soon. I know it can be rough when you're not feeling goods. It's an animal of your own creation. What'd you do? Get wasted yesterday? And then stay out all night? Um, I there's been some stuff like family stuff going on, so I haven't slept like a whole night in a couple days. Um, to be perfectly honest, you're okay, hold on. You're gonna buy a record and build a bar. I have questions. Oh, fuck. I I fear I am now at the point in my life. Oh, hell yeah, that's really nice. I'm glad. I hope it comes out really nice and really quick. I'm gonna just refresh that real quick because it's not doing that. Yeah, I've been looking at getting. I wanna make like a little bar cart. Um, for my gin because I have an inappropriate amount of gin, and my partner and I are currently making um slow gin that we have to strain it and stuff now, but we've been making slow gin. So I want to get like a nice little setup to put our gin in. Um, because apparently we're gin people now. I say now, I've always been a gin person, but like we now are making gin. Gin is delicious. I love gin. Um, I should do like a gin tour, but that would involve getting up and shit and like doing things. But I have too many projects going right now. So like this cabinet here is a random cabinet we picked up at a thrift store, and we've slowly been outfitting it to display models because my partner paints models and he has beautiful, beautiful models. So we're gonna like get some more shelves and stuff to go in there and do some custom lighting stuff to light it up and make it look really nice. But right now it's like I have that project going. I have a table that I'm supposed to be making into an outdoor like mini bar thingy. But it's in the shed with the giant spider that lives in there. A gin tour. Right now, oh god, it's we're going into spring, so there's gonna be a lot of really good gin flavors that come out. There's always like a white strawberry and stuff like that that is just fresh and delicious. But my favorite is a blood orange gin. There's a blood orange gin, and it's so dangerous because you mix that with a little bit of lemonade, but like it's UK lemonade, so like basically Sierra Mist. um, Bombay Sapphire. Ooh, I like my flavored stuff. I'm a little bitch, so but I have honestly. Let me go get it. There's a Whitley Neal gin specifically. Oh fuck! I'm moving you, and I'm gonna go get it, and I will be back in like 2 seconds. But that means you're gonna see my sweats, and I'm so sorry. I'll be right back. Oh shit! I say that like I can't talk because you're on my headset, but grab the Whitley Neal. Whitley Neal? I can't speak English. And I live in the UK, so that's embarrassing. God, you can tell how good it is because it's basically empty. Okay, so this bad boy. This is Whitley Neal Blood Orange. I'm not even kidding when I say it's like juice. We are, yeah, we are whores for this stuff. And the bottles are really, really pretty. Oh, I have a collection of the bottles. I'm slowly, one at a time, finishing every color to make a rainbow. um, so so it is pretty good with tonic, but I am fucking telling you, do an American single or an American double shot, because those are different quantities than the shots here. As I learned, we drink heavy in the U.S. With lemonade, and lemonade, so in the US, is again like Sierra Mist. It's so fucking good. It is just the perfect level of citrus. Um, if you want something really nice, they have like you can do American lemonade, and they have a raspberry. There's a raspberry from the same brand. Um, and it's a red bottle. And that one is absolutely incredible for with American lemonade, because then it's like a pink lemonade situation, and then you can use frozen raspberries as ice cubes. Delicious. It's not bad with tonic, it's just not my favorite. I think it tastes better with other things. Oh yeah. Do that. But yeah, no. It makes a good Negroni. I'm not the biggest fan of them, but it does make a good one. It makes a good everything. It's just a really good gin, and it's really smooth. It goes down like nothing. They had like an original super dry gin in a black bottle that you can put with anything that's just like straight normal gin, and that one tastes incredible. It's beautiful. It's lovely. All of that to say, eventually I want to make a bar for the gin. Because, and I want something weirdly aesthetic and built from random stuff that like I've acquired. And I have a couple of ideas or like plans, and there's an oddity shop near here that sells like a bunch of antiques and shit. Like, I think you can see it too. Hold on. So that in the background, funny enough, this like candelabra situation that's going on in the back there, ignore the fact that it's fucked because I haven't actually cleaned it and we've had it for a while, so the candles are, yeah. But the pan on the bottom is a real brass pan, or yeah, brass. But it's like an antique brass pan that has like the fucking carvings and shit in it, and it's just to protect the floor, which is the bougiest thing I've ever said. But that thing was like, I don't know, 10 quid. Like, it was so cheap. So, is it an antique? Yes. Am I taking care of it? Yes, I am. I do get the wax and stuff off it, but it is just to protect the floor, because this is a rental. But yeah, as you can see, we have way too much personality in our house. And we've just been slowly acquiring things from our travels, which has been really cool. We've gotten some really cool stuff. Yeah, these are photos that we took on our first trip up in the Highlands. We're gonna add more. There's a couple of large canvases in this room, and we're just gonna keep adding because, yeah, the latest thing that we've done, we did some watercolor paintings on our last trip, and I put those in the kitchen. We each did one, so I've like matted them together and put them up in the kitchen, and I figure we'll just do that every time we travel from now on, and we'll go in different seasons, and slowly but surely it'll add some color to our kitchen, because right now our kitchen's really gray. Everything in this house is really gray because it's a rental. But we're adding color slowly. Some stuff like this that's from my Dia de los Muertos altar, and I just didn't want to take it down, so I left it up for next year. And like this one, this bottle is the first Whitley Neal we got. It was like a Japanese plum situation. The worst one we've ever had. But we have a green bottle from it, so so it's fine. But yeah, no, it's been lovely, and I look forward to seeing how your bar cart comes out when you're done building it. Go ahead and send pictures. I love pictures. This life is too short. Thank you. I will say I do have to get off soon because I'm gonna make I made enchiladas and beans and stuff Mexican style from scratch, but I'm gonna make some tomalito to go with it tonight because we finished the rice. Hopefully you can pull it off with minimal swearing. Doc, swearing's all right. I swear a lot, so I might be biased, but I do think it's all right. It's okay. I think you'll live. I think life is a little too short to worry about that. Yeah, that's fair. It's if you start getting frustrated, I can definitely see being like done with it. Minimal frustration. Yeah, that'll be nice. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I'm actually really chilly. It's gotten very gray. It's probably gonna rain soon. A headboard ruined you? Babes, what do you mean? What do you mean? How? You know what? Actually thinking about it. Yeah, that'll get to you. So a few months back, we got a bunk bed from someone secondhand. Like we just went, on Gumtree and found it, and it was a good deal. And I'd been wanting. I had a couple different things in mind for making like a little reading area because I like to have a cozy little reading space to sit with the cats. And I'm such a little whore for my cats. And we got this secondhand. It's a bunk bed, and it's a full double bed on the bottom and a twin on the top. And the people that we bought it from, they were like, "Oh, do you want us to take it apart before you get there?" And I was like, "That would be wonderful. Please take it apart. Like, yeah, we'll be there at this time. Blah blah." When we get there, they haven't taken it apart, and they were super nice people. Like, don't get me wrong, this is not like a thing about them being mean or anything like that. They were super nice, super helpful, absolutely lovely human beings. But it was just so funny because they looked at us and they were like, "Yeah, we don't even know where to start taking it apart. Like, we have no idea." So we get it apart, we get it in the car, we get it home. Then it was time to build the damn thing. Now, the first mistake I made was building it before eating something, because I got so pissed off so fast. This thing it's all metal. For some reason, it's all metal, and everything about it pisses me off. And it fought tooth and nail, and the room that it's going into is just, so it's just wide enough in one direction to fit a bed lengthwise, and it's in the other direction, it's like it could fit a bed lengthwise and then like a bedside table and maybe like a very narrow shoe rack, right? It's a small room. It's almost a square. It's a small room. And I, for whatever reason, thought I had measured, but I thought, let's put the bunk bed in here. This'll be fine. Yeah, 2 people trying to build a bunk bed in a room that small is a dumb fucking idea. It's the worst thing. It was not fine. And I didn't eat first. I was grumpy. I was grouchy. I was a bitch. Like, I'm saying that with all the love for myself in my heart. I know for a fact that I get grouchy when I'm hungry. Yeah. And so I just, I thought it was going to be faster than it was. I kept running into problems. There's a lot of weird little things where you have to like put a tiny, tiny, tiny fucking hex key through a hole to screw a screw in. Because it was secondhand and they didn't know how to take it apart, they kind of fucked it up, and some of the screws had been like stripped. There was just so many little problems that just drove me nuts. I hate Allen wrenches. I think they're pointless. Give me a fucking screwdriver. Give me a fucking screwdriver. Because what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean I have to get this stupid L-shaped thing and put it in the hole and hold it and just... No. No. Yeah, no, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about anything. I would, even if it was like bolts. Give me bolts. Give me some shit. And like, don't get me wrong, technically, oh, that was the thing. Yeah, this thing's a bunk bed, right? You're putting it together. You drop it and it goes down the pipe to the bottom. So it's like and the pipe was literally the perfect length. So like, you would put the Allen key through, right? And it would get to the screw. And the amount of it that was sticking out for you to hold, like, was just the little L piece, and no, like there was no... So I was literally getting like another screwdriver and putting it between the L piece and the pipe so that I could turn it easier because my hands were killing me. Yeah, no more Allen wrenches. I never want to see a hex key again. I hate hex keys. They're foolishly... I feel like there's nothing worse. Well, okay, that's a lie. The pegs, those little pegs, like the tension pegs. I should stop doing these hand motions. But like the little pegs that they use in like IKEA stuff, where you've got like a little peg and you put it in the hole and you like bang it real hard, that little motherfucker, hate them. Hate them. Get rid of them. Hate them. Because you can only use them once. You take that bitch apart, you need replacements. Anyways, all of that to say, oh, the twisty lock discs. Before I left the US, I built a couple things for my mom. And they were all... It was screws. They were screws. They were real screws. Those twisty lock discs things. And wooden pegs. I built them both. They look beautiful. It took every last ounce of sanity that I have. And they're still standing. They look lovely. They work beautifully. She needed it real bad. Yeah, that was fucking... I hated that. I hated every second of it. All of that to say, though, yeah, I can understand how a bed frame or a headboard could do you in. It really could. It will just ruin your life. It will just take you out and take you down with it. Oh, and that's the other thing, like that bed, because it's metal, they, instead of doing like normal slats, like a normal human being, they have metal slats, right? And there's metal slats on the bottom and there's metal slats on the top. And they're thin. They're really, really narrow. They're like, I shit you not, like about this wide. And there's, like 20 of them, top and bottom, 20 each. And they've got like a little plastic peg that goes into a metal hole. So, needless to say, most of those snapped. And a couple of things have happened since then. Number one, I've looked far and wide, high and low, everywhere I could think of, short of getting them custom printed. And they just don't sell things that size, right? They sell the double ones for the wooden slats. They don't sell this single one for these little tiny metal slats. so I was like, okay, well, let me look into where this bed originally came from, like the company that originally made it, and see about getting replacements. And I looked up the company, and I was so happy to see that, yeah, they do replacement parts. They have a whole spare parts website thing. You go on it, you can search the thing that you have and see about getting replacements, because yeah, you know, um keep things out of landfill, right? It's stuff that makes me happy in my little brain. And they have a bunch of parts. And so first thing I did was I ordered, hey Knight, I ordered a bunch of replacement bolts and stuff, like the screws, because I was like, these screws are fucked. I'm gonna wanna replace them. And then I was like, oh, it's missing the little caps for the top, so I want some of those. And if I could have like the slat end pieces, because the slats are fine, right? There's a couple of slats, but they're mostly fine. So if I just have the end pieces, it would be good as new. It'd be fine. It'd be perfect. They don't, like, the slats and the end pieces and like everything associated with that are constantly considered out of stock. And I like contacted the people that do the spare parts, and they were like, yeah, so it's not actually out of stock, we never have them, like they don't let us have them. And I was like, that's fucked up, but okay. And then I tried contacting the company that like makes it and sells it, and they just like never get back to me. So now I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, the ones on the bottom are in pretty good shape. There's a couple where like the little plastic thing is broken off, but they'll be fine. The top, those ones are completely fucked. So now my question is, maybe instead of doing that, instead of trying to like replace the slats, I put like one of those cool rope hammocks up, because the top is going to be just for the cats. So like, it doesn't need to hold more than like 100 pounds max for it to be safe for them. So I was like, if I do that, then it's like open air and it comes down, and I could like maybe even upholster one whole side and make it like extra cozy underneath. Because again, it doesn't make sense to put shit in the landfill. It doesn't make sense to like, it's just, it's one of those things. It made more sense for me to get something secondhand instead of it getting thrown away. Because I didn't need something like perfect or specific, because it's just going to be used as like a reading nook, and maybe occasionally as like an extra bed for if we have company or whatever. But realistically, I don't enjoy people. So that sounds really mean. I sound really mean. Fuck. I say that with all the love in my heart, but like, yeah, it's an occasional guest room. But other than that, it's just kind of for my own, to sit with the cats and read, which hopefully will get them sorted and over here in the next couple months. It's just, when I was doing the masters, I couldn't. I didn't exist. I didn't exist, and now I do. I exist again. So here I am. Yeah, it's been an interesting year. I can't believe I've lived here for, God, we're coming up on a year and a half now. Coming up on a year and a half. Fucking wild. Oh, goddamn lifetime. It feels like it. It really does. It just feels um like everything else feels so far away mentally, like where I used to be and what I used to be, or like, you know, how everything used to be, I should say. It feels like a lifetime ago. I feel so much more just like relaxed and at peace, and it's wild. I didn't realize how much uh things could change like so in such a short period of time. Not to obviously this is just I'm beating a dead horse at this point. Pardon the phrase. Um but yeah, it's been such a big change. It's been such a big change. Granted, I am older. I'm I've aged so much. Holy shit. Um, but yeah, it's just you're bald now. Doc! You are. To be fair, it suits you. It suits you. I saw the streams. Yeah. Um, I am like 3 seconds away from being a furry. I say that with humor, not like seriousness, because obviously I have everything cat themed ever. I may as well just crawl into a suit. Hold up, no furries. Be nice to the furries. They keep our world going. What do I mean by that? What I mean is just that like everything in my life is cat themed and it's getting more and more ridiculous. Like these, I've had these for a minute, right? They're the coziest little fingerless gloves. They've got the cute little cat paw on the bits. Great gloves. I love them. I acquired these slippers yesterday, which I shared in our group chat, which are like I think the pink doesn't want it. Yeah, but they're so soft and they're so cozy. They're so comfortable. I've never been happier in my life. I waited for so long too because I had these like I had when I first moved here, I got some like cheapy slippers. They were literally like I'm not even kidding, £3. Like they were cheapy because um realistically I was broke as fuck. I still am. Ugh, broke as fuck. Um but you know, I'm in a country where I can't because of like visa stuff and weirdness, I couldn't work more than 20 hours because I was a student and I was paying tuition and I live further from my institution, my college, my uni, than I wanted to, but like it just worked out that way. So I was paying a not insignificant amount of money on like the trains and stuff. All of that to say, I was broke as fuck, as you often are at uni. But I was a little especially broke, and so I bought like the cheapest slipper ever, right? And I was like, they just have to last a year. They just have to get through this year of uni, and then next year, when I'm in a better position and I can work more hours and all that shit, I'll get something a little bit nicer for myself. Um, And when I tell you those slippers they're still upstairs too. They have holes all the way through, like all the way through the bottoms of them. I wore them to death, and I wasn't gonna buy new ones until next winter. Because I was like, fuck it, it doesn't really matter. Like the weather's kind of turning warmer. I don't need to worry about it. But the weather's crazy, so it's gotten cold again. And these were they were on sale, and I was like, okay, I'm still broke as fuck, but I'm gonna treat myself to a slightly more expensive, nicer pair of slippers that is probably gonna last. And they're much cuter because the other ones were just like blue random fucking blue fluffy slippers. And these are so nice. I did not expect them to be so nice. So anyways, long story short, I'm very happy with my weird fucking slipper purchase. But now I just have to find like a real job. It is always nice when that works out. I love getting stuff and being shocked by the quality. But yeah, now I just have to worry about like getting a real job. I have a job, but it's part-time and it's it's not even part-time. It's when I get hours, right? It's a shit job. It's like working in a pub or whatever. It's just a shit job. It's a job, it's hard, it is what it is, but like the hours are shit. Like they just are. Um so I get what I get and I suck it up. Yeah, no, I'll get there. I know. It's just been so bizarre to come out of the program and then be thrust into this world that's like insane. It was already insane, but it's getting worse. Um, because like some of the job stuff, I said it on stream the other day. Trace the dragon! I want to sit on my little dragon horde of cat themed shit, okay? Um, to be fair, it's like there's weird stuff with visa things. Where like technically I'm okay with this because it's I'm out of term time now. I'm on a different visa. So like I can do this again. But while I was on my student visa, I couldn't do this. Even for free, technically, was not okay. Yeah. So now that I'm on different stuff, it's fine. But it was just like it was so bizarre. Um I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about being an immigrant. Um you'd think I would have learned that from, you know, like my grandparents who went to America. But no, of course I didn't. Um, but all of that considered, hopefully I'll be able to keep up with this on a semi-regular basis. When I'm working a normal job, I'll probably switch to weekends and be able to like stay up late and stream with friends again. But right now, it's just I'm all over the place, so we're doing weekdays because my weekends are all manual labor. But yeah, job stuff has just been really weird. I talked about it the other day on stream. It may have been last week or it may have been Monday. I don't remember, but I was talking about it and I got 15 minutes before I had an interview scheduled. I got an email from the company being like, actually, and I quote, due to unforeseen circumstances, we're not hiring for this position anymore. And I was like, interesting. And I guess there was, yeah, there was like a weird financial thing that happened. Back home, because of course, and that made like every company basically draw back on everything they were thinking of doing. So a lot of them have like downsized or scaled back expansion or like set it out for longer. And so a bunch of companies just decided, well, we can't afford to have this department right now, or we can't expand this department, we can't duplicate it, whatever. So a lot of jobs just disappeared overnight. Which, yeah, don't get me wrong, it does kind of suck, but at the same token, it's very much like, what you gonna do about it? It is what it is. Life keeps going. At least I have a job. Even if it's not, you know, the one I want, it's a job. It pays my bills. So it is what it is. Sorry, I got a couple emails about random school stuff. So I need to make sure that those are okay. Because I just got my official, like, degree stuff. Heck yeah. Okay. I just got my official degree stuff a couple months back, and so they're like reaching out with all of the legal stuff and like the graduation stuff. Which I did manage to get a distinction, by the way, which is pretty fucking cool. So I finished with distinction. So I'm the first person in my bloodline to have a bachelor's, to have a master's, and to have gotten my bachelor's with honors and my master's with distinction, which is pretty fucking good. I'm pretty fucking happy. Thank you very much for the congrats. So that's really cool. It makes me feel very, very happy. I'm so proud. Oh, but yeah, I've been checking kind of compulsively, thanks to my stuff. It's I think it's finally hitting me how interesting. Like, I got my bachelor's back in the US, so that was cool. But then to like move all the way here and get my master's here with distinction, it's like, oh yeah, shit, cool. Should probably like send my grandma some pictures or some shit. But yeah, it's really cool. I'm very proud. Man, I just be yapping these days. I didn't realize how much I could yap. Maybe I just miss talking. Maybe I just need to talk more. Just talk more in daily life. I will say it is bizarre how much so like this is completely different subject, but like making friends as an adult is already hard enough, right? Like being an adult with friends. If you don't have them from before, it just is a struggle. If you don't have them from existing. Sorry, I was just realizing something kind of strange that my OBS is doing. That it can be hard to make friends, and moving to a different country and trying to make friends has been a struggle. So, and then it was super funny because like the first, I've made a few kind of acquaintances, but the first person that I've been like, I think we might be friends. Like we're friends. They sent me like a recipe. And I was like, oh my god, it's like Stardew Valley. It's like Stardew Valley. They like you and they send you a recipe. Oh my god. Oh. And that's how I knew I needed to talk to other people more instead of just being by myself talking. Because holy shit. Video games have rotted my brain. Oh my goodness. I do bring people gifts. I'm not even kidding. Like, I've gotten to the point where there are a few people in town who I know them well enough that, like, you give everyone eggs. Doc. I. In start, you'd cook a bunch of eggs in start and head out. I don't even. When you say cook a bunch of like, are you like just like the one egg thing? I don't think is that even. I don't want to look up how many characters like eggs in Stardew Valley. That feels like the wrong. Enough of them do. See, you know what? You know what? Yeah, yeah. Stardew's. You know what? Yeah, you play however you like. You play however makes you happy. I'm happy for you and your Stardew Valley egg scheme. That's a beautiful thing that you did there. It's not how I would do it, But that doesn't matter because it only matters if you were happy. If you enjoyed it, then you're playing it correctly. That's it. That's all it is. A handful of times. I mean, there are some weird characters that like weird things. Like, I know that Abigail. I think she loves amethyst, but she likes quartz. But if you give her the quartz, I think it's like 50% of the time she'll tell you that she ate it. Yeah, so I have the it's the crystallarium and I have it making diamonds. Another one making amethyst and another one making quartz because a ton of different characters like diamonds. So I have like hundreds of diamonds and I just run around giving everyone diamonds. And that is how I do Stardew Valley. But like I said, there's no wrong way to play. So if you like giving them cooked eggs, then that's chill. That's great. That's whatever makes it enjoyable, right? Like video games are for fun. You're not supposed to play them. Like there's no right way to play them. Um yeah. Yeah, the flowers, she's weird about the flowers. I think she's the only one that says she eats them. Cuz Haley, I think she's just like, "Oh, that's my favorite flower." Sorry, it's starting to rain and it just caught me off guard. I've been playing a lot of Stardew Valley. I am like she can eat wrong. She's a little I don't listen. Okay. Haley can I'm not a fan of Haley. Okay. But I am more a fan of Haley than I am of Clint. And the fact that he's the new romanceable character makes me want to scream. Like Sandy, beautiful. This is a wonderful idea. I love Sandy. She's cool. What do you mean, Clint? No, I have a geode crusher so that I don't have to take my geodes to him. I literally only go to him with the treasure troves and the golden mystery boxes and stuff because I have a geode crusher so that I don't have to go to him for my geodes because I hate him so much that I don't want to give him money and it makes my insides hurt when I have to go pay him money to open my mystery boxes. I am like so emotionally invested in hating Clint. Yeah. At a certain point, if you do a certain quest for him, he gives you the recipe for a geode crusher, and you can make geode crushers. I know we all hate Clint. I hope that part of making him romanceable is like changing his entire character, because otherwise, the only thing about him that is like good about being romanceable is that then it could be at this point, like that, it's just part of an evil run, right? Like, pardon me, why would I romance Clint? But hopefully, since he's romanceable, right? Like, you don't want to romance a dude that's obsessed with someone else. And then divorce on purpose. Except you have to go to the shrine of selfishness. No, that's to get rid of your kids. But either he has to be part of an evil run, right? But when I was doing the evil run, I would just piss off all the like I would literally romance every single romanceable person in town. Every single one until they were all angry at me. That was my evil run. But he either has to be part of the evil run or they're going to have to change his character so much that he's not a weird incel dude pining after Emily anymore. Like, chill out. Be a normal human being. This is the real the real bread and butter of video games. Which I'm getting all worked up. I'm getting so upset. I'm actually getting genuinely angry at the fact that Clint is romanceable. Oh, he does. He does. Which, speaking of like things that I need to do, I should probably say goodbye for now so I can go make Tomalita. And get ready for dinner. I also forgot to have lunch, full disclosure. That's not like me being cute and quirky. Not clit. I'm sorry. He got mad when you called him clit? It is so much funnier. It really is. How, in high school, how... I'm trying to think if I was a high school boy and everyone was calling me clit. I don't think I would be mad. I'd be like, damn right I'm the clit. Like, at least I know where it is. Fuck. Reining it back in for my sanity. Yeah, I should probably say goodnight for tonight and head off into the sunset because I have stuff to make for dinner and I forgot to eat lunch, and that's not me being like cute and quirky and like, oh my god, I forgot to eat lunch. Like, no, I actually forgot to eat and I'm hungry, so I'm gonna go have some food and then make dinner. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. This has been lovely. I'm glad to be back. I'm glad we have some Fuck Fridays back. Absolutely missed Fuck Fridays. They're my favorite. And having gotten into a little tiny bit of Phasmo again today, I want to play more, but I need friends to play, which means I need to do it on days where my friends are awake and I can stay up that late, because it is terrifying. I forgot how scary it is, and it's scarier now. Yeah, I'm glad you could hang out for a bit. It's been nice chatting. I missed you. Missed you, buddy. But that's for the future. That's for future me to figure out as far as how and when I can stay up and play games. Pardon me. All that being said, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you're having a wonderful day or a wonderful night wherever you are. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and be kind to yourself and everyone else whenever you can. And good night. We are not going to raid out because literally nobody streams at this time. So, good luck. Find someone you love and go say hi. Good night, everybody. Bye.